Hi, this is Karen from Karen.com. How do you like my hair? Isn't it short? I love it. I just love it, love it, love it. I should have done this a long time ago. Anyway, I'm making a video response to the Momversation video on emergency kits. Are you prepared in the case of an emergency? Um, well, yes, we are now. We weren't always. And we live in the Midwest, in the Ozarks, and so we don't have to deal with earthquakes or hurricanes, but we do have to deal with tornadoes. Not fun, scary, scary, scary stuff. Luckily, we don't get tornadoes in our area of the country very often because we live in a pretty hilly area, and the hills kind of act as a buffer when it comes to any tornadoes that happen to come our way. But we have gotten some pretty serious tornadoes through our city in the past. We do not have a basement. We live in a ranch-style home, all one level. So if there's a tornado warning, the only thing we can really do at this point is just grab some blankets and get in the hallway and, duck and cover, basically. That's really our plan when it comes to tornadoes. Like I said, luckily, by the grace of God, we won't have to deal with anything like that anytime ever. But right now that's our plan. Now we've toyed with the idea of buying a storm shelter and burying it. That really would be the ideal solution, but they're expensive, and so we have not ruled that out. But it's definitely something we probably need to spend a little bit more time on. So if anything like that happens, we are prepared. Now, we did have an ice storm back in '07, and in the course of 3 days, it dumped 4.5 inches of ice on us. Yeah, that was not fun. And we lost electricity. In fact, 75% of our city was out. So we were personally out for 11.5 days. No power. All our food spoiled. We were totally cold because it was, frigid temperatures, and we were not prepared for that emergency at all. We have since learned from our mistakes. We've bought a generator, and we do have a tub full of emergency rations. We have packets of dry beans, beef jerky, any kind of food, dry food that would keep for a long time. We have an emergency kit along with candles and flashlights and extra batteries and just things like that, just basic survival. Rations if we ever had to dig into that. And we also have a water cooler, and we always have at least 15 gallons of distilled water at our house at a given time because of this water cooler. So that is our extra water in case something happened to our water supply. That would get us by for probably a couple of weeks at least. So we're prepared in that respect. Now, members of my family kind of think that given the state of our country and the way it's going and the building unrest and dissatisfaction with our government, that it's probably a good idea to have a gun handy. I am not a fan of guns. I absolutely believe you should have the right to carry a gun if you choose to. It's definitely not something we can rule out. We don't have a gun at this point, but there's, who's to say we won't buy one at one point if things ever get bad. I mean, if you ever have to defend yourself because the country goes berserk, something like what's happening to Egypt right now, it's always a good idea to have something on hand to protect your family. And also, given the shaky economy as it is now, it's probably not a bad idea to, collect those dollar bills and coins and, purchase some gold and silver in case our currency collapses. Because even though I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but, guys, this stuff can happen. And you have to think how that's going to impact you and your family if it does. So it is a good idea to be prepared for all emergencies, whether it's natural disaster or, our government goes berserk and starts taking things away from us, our economy collapses, our money's all of a sudden not worth anything. I mean, these kind of things you have to think about it. It's a good idea to have an emergency kit. It's an emergency kit for all situations, just because you never know what will happen. So I think for the most part, we're in good shape. We are definitely prepared if all of a sudden food supplies are low, water is contaminated, financial situation, money collapses. We're kind of covered in that respect too. The only thing I feel uncomfortable about is the tornado, and it would be nice to have some kind of secure place to go if we ever do have a tornado bearing down on our area. So anyway, so it's a good idea to have an emergency kit. I highly recommend it, and it's just something to think about, because you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen in this day and age, especially. So be prepared.